Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about... Today we're going to talk about...
I said hey!
Dude, what? I'm filming. Dude, you've been saying you're going to film like a battle between Trangia and Toaks alcohol stoves for like months now. Where's the video? Make them fight already. I'm Trangia stove. I'm a Toaks stove. I'm a... No! What? You said make them fight. Dude, you know what I mean. You're supposed to compare the two. Get on with it already. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing it. We're putting the Toaks titanium alcohol stove up against the Trangia alcohol stove. We're gonna show you the differences between the two, how fast they can both bring a cup of water up to boil. We're gonna do what we can to show you the differences. Let's do it. Okay, so a few months back, I ended up getting the Toaks titanium alcohol stove in a bundle that we unboxed from Firebox stoves, right? And at the time, I did a video on it just to kind of show how fast it could bring water to a boil and, you know, what it could do. But it really wasn't, I wasn't really happy with it because it didn't really compare anything. So I started looking around Firebox's website and I found, and other videos of him as well, and I found this Trangia stove. So these are both alcohol-based stoves, meaning you pour alcohol in them, denatured alcohol, and they burn and they form like a plume of flame, and you can put your pot over top of it and they burn. So there's some obvious differences in these. So let's get into it and figure out what the differences are, how they react, what it's going on. But before we can get into the scientifics of it, we need something a little different. Hey, here we are. I've had this for months now, but I haven't used it. The official Matao Outdoors lab coat. Ooh, look at that. Yeah. So we're gonna use this to do all of our scientific experiments. We got us a lab coat. I don't like things around my wrists. So, all right. We got us a lab coat. Let's get into it. So, boiled down to its simplest form, we have two stoves here. What they do is they both burn denatured alcohol. Denatured alcohol is just alcohol. It's rubbing alcohol, you know, kind of stuff. It's flammable.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
So, you know, so basically at its core, you take these two, you fill them up with alcohol, you light them, and you use it as a stove to cook your stuff, right? But I want to know the differences. What are the benefits of having one over the other, right? So the first thing we're going to compare is size.
Size matters not.
Holding these two up to each other, it's pretty obvious which is the bigger, which is the smaller, right? If you're into ultralight backpacking, the Toaks might be your stove of choice. It is much drastically smaller in size if you hold them next to each other, right? Like the height, it's shorter in height, it's shorter in circumference. It's just all around a smaller stove. However, the Trangia is bigger, but it offers more benefits than this. So on to the next comparison, it's going to come down to features.
Show me what you got.
Right? There are no real great features with this Toaks other than it is small and lightweight, right? It weighs nothing. You throw this in your pack, you're not going to know it's there. The Trangia, however, it can be bulky. Right now, this is full of alcohol and it's got some weight to it, right? But it offers a lot of features, right? One of which is this removable simmer cap. So it's got this little cap on it that you can place over top and you can control the amount of flame coming out of it. That's a huge plus. The Toaks doesn't offer that. It's just on or off, right? So, and how you can control kind of the heat off that is probably by raising it or lowering it. But the Toaks or the Trangia makes it simple with just this kind of simmer cap. It's also good to put the fire out. So with the Toaks, you've got to somehow smother it with something. Usually I'll just put my pot on and smother it out. You could try blowing it over at times, but that's kind of dangerous, blowing it out, I mean. So I usually just smother it with something to put it out. With the Trangia, you just put the cap on and the fire's out. The other benefit of the Trangia is, I think I just already mentioned it, if you take the Toaks, you can't put nothing in this, right? The Trangia has this sealed cap, so you can take this little, it's got a little rubber gasket in there. I've got this thing full of alcohol right now. So you could store alcohol in here. I don't know that I would suggest doing it for a long periods of time, like between camps you might want to empty it, but you can store alcohol in here, so that's a huge plus. I have this little flask I bought at Firebox. You can probably buy them on Amazon or something else as well, but it just holds some additional alcohol for when I take the Toaks. I can fill it up. I think I get maybe 2 fills out of this, and that'll, be enough to heat up coffee for 2 days or something if I'm going camping or backpacking overnight. In combination though, with the Trangia, I can take, I didn't close that enough. I can take almost this entire bottle worth in here, holding that, and take this, and now I've got 4 or 5 cooks, I don't know. So it offers you just a lot more features for the weight, right? So let's empty these and weigh. I'm going to empty this one and I'm going to weigh them in comparison to weight empty. I've emptied the Trangia and I've taken the cap off, which makes it basically 1 for 1, right? You've got the Toaks, the Trangia, both empty, both without like caps or anything else like that. I figure the cap is not fair, neither the simmering. You could just take the Trangia like this out camping and use it like this. So let's compare the two. The Toaks comes in at, whoa man. So the Toaks comes in at 5/8 of an ounce. This thing just weighs nothing. The Trangia comes in at 2 3/8 of an ounce. So pretty drastically heavier, but still fairly light. So the Toaks does win as far as weight goes. It is definitely lighter. However, the Trangia is still not that heavy. At 2 ounces, just over 2, what was that, like maybe 2.5 ounces, just over 2 ounces, it's not that heavy, right? It's really not. Even with the cap on and the simmer cap. Okay, so here's the cap and the simmer cap. They weigh 1.5 ounces. So that's adding an extra 1.5 ounces. So you're probably, well, I guess I can just find out right here. All total with everything on it empty is 4 ounces, right? So if you take this with the cap, the closure cap, the simmer cap, and the stove, you're at 4 ounces. That's not terrible, right? I could throw this still in my pack and not notice it. 4 ounces is not anything, but I get there are ultralight hikers and backpackers out there that ounces mean a lot to them. So the Toaks might be more important to you. It is definitely lighter. The only downfall is, again, that kind of simmer cap and stuff like that. But if you bring this, bottle of alcohol, if you're going to take an alcohol stove with you, it could be an option, right? We are going to now set these stoves up. I'm going to put a pot on. I'm going to set it up in my Firebox. I'm going to make sure that the height between the tops of these are similar, so that we have the same amount of air gap between the stove and the pot, so that we can rule that out. I'm trying to make this as scientific as possible without being a scientist, right? We're going to make as much of the same as we can so that we can rule out any indifferences between the tests. So we're going to set this up and we are going to cook a pot. We are going to use the highly calibrated, very exact measuring device known as a stopwatch, right? So we're going to, as soon as we put the pot of water, we're going to measure the exact amount of water. We're going to put it on the heat. As soon as we put it on the heat, we are going to start our stopwatch and we're going to see how long it takes to get 8 ounces of water. So we are going to see how long it takes to get 8 ounces of water to a boil between these two. We have the Toaks inside of our tri-torch configuration. We are roughly, let's see, we are about 3/4 of an inch from the top of the stove to where the pot is going to rest, right? So let's get our 8 ounces of water in. Let's fill this thing up and let's get going. We have exactly 8 ounces of water. We are going to fill the stove with alcohol. So you want to fill the stove up, right? But you don't want, there's like a rim here, right? That's where it kind of creates that Venturi effect to create that bloom. You want to keep the alcohol underneath that rim of that stove. There it goes. We're going to give that a second to kind of bloom up. You'll see it go. There it goes. Let's not melt the camera in the process. There it's going. It's starting to suck up and you'll see that kind of flame come up, right? We need our fancy dandy stopwatch. I'm going to boil this uncovered. I know water will boil faster when you have a lid on top of it, but I want to be able to see this, and both tests are going to be the same without a lid on it. Our fire's going. I added the extra fire stick in there just to give it some stability because this wind flaps, I don't know if mine's bent or something, but it keeps falling down on me. So we've got our water ready, our stopwatch is ready, and go. Okay, we're at 12 minutes 37 seconds right now, which is right around the first time we first tested it to boil, and we are just coming to a boil. So let's see, we're starting to see bubbles down below. Definitely getting some rapid movement in the water, and we're starting to see bubbles on this top side here. We are at 1350. I am calling this as a boil. Just under 14 minutes, we got 8 ounces of water to a boil with our Toaks alcohol stove. All right, so just under 14 minutes to get that pot of water, 8 ounces of water boiling with the Toaks alcohol stove. And we still had, I had to do a battery swap and the camera got a little hot from sitting over the fire, but we still had about a half a pot of alcohol left. So that probably, you probably could have cooked another 8 ounces over that. So still plenty of alcohol burning in there. So let's move on to the Trangia. We've now set up our Firebox in the normal square configuration because this is too big to fit in the tri-torch. I've got 2 fire sticks in kind of the middle area, like right around here. Can you see that? Fire sticks right here to get it to just kind of set on here. There is a position where you can put these sticks where it can kind of squeeze the sides of this a little bit to hold it more, but I wanted that 3/4 of an inch gap between that and the top so that would be the same. And right now we are at 3/4 of an inch from this top of this rim here to the top of the stove. So I'm going to throw in 2 fire sticks on the top just to hold our pot. And let's get some alcohol in here. Same alcohol as the other stove. The stove is cool, it's dry. So we've got 8 ounces of water in the pot. Let's get our stove back. Let's get this guy lit. So I just take my one of my fire sticks, dip it in the alcohol, light it. And there's your bloom. All right, so we've got our stopwatch ready, reset. Our stove is to a full bloom. We've got our 8-ounce pot of water, and we're putting it on. Let's go. Okay guys, so we are past 14 minutes on the Trangia and still no boil. We're definitely getting heat to the water. The flame's still going. We're starting to see steam rise off the pot. But this, I did not honestly expect this. We're almost to 15 minutes now and we still have no signs of a boil coming soon. So I started wondering, maybe my gap is too tight between the top of the stove and the pot. So I did a quick Google search and it says the optimal distance is about 1.25 inches. So I'm about a 1/2 inch too close to the pot, but I still want to know this test at 3/4 inch so that way we can go with the optimal distance between the two, right? Or we have the same distance between the two. So I'm still gonna let this go until it goes to a boil, but so far it is lost to the Toaks. I was not expecting that. I was honestly expecting the Trangia to come in and just decimate the Toaks, but I gotta be honest, this is kind of underwhelming. So I'm gonna let this run until it boils just to see what it is, and then I'm gonna let it cool. I'll let everything cool. I'm gonna drop this down to where Steve from Firebox suggests to put it, in the locations to lock it in, measure the distance, and see if it burns quicker. I know obviously that water will boil faster when it's covered and we're retaining the heat inside the pot with like the lid or something, but I wanted these tests to be even between the two, and I wanted to show you guys via the time lapse and stuff how long it takes to boil this stuff. We're at 16:30 right now and still no boil. So I could definitely tell, I mean, the water's getting hotter. It is steaming more. It is getting there. So I will check in with you guys when we get there. All right, guys, we are at 23 minutes and 30 seconds and we still don't have a boil. I just don't think this setup can do it. Something about this distance. I know that obviously this Trangia can burn this thing and get this to a boil, but it just can't do it at this distance. So maybe 3/4 inch was a bad test or something, but so far, I mean, you're talking minimal gap, 3/4 inch between the pot and the top of the stove, and the Toaks did it without a problem. Boiled it in 12 minutes. We're still going. We're at 24 and nothing. I mean, it's definitely heating the water. You're seeing steam coming off of it. There are little tiny micro bubbles popping up from the bottom, but it's just not getting to that boil. So I'm gonna call it here. It's been 24 minutes. If you're waiting to heat up your coffee in the morning or get your water boiling for coffee, you're not waiting a 1/2 hour for this thing. It's just not feasible at that point. So I am going to call this here, take this off. I'm going to move the stove to its optimal 1.25 inches and see where we go from there. All right, I set up the stove, the Firebox stove, how Steve recommends it. I've got the fire sticks in these kind of middle slots. The second one down, the stove is pushed in the middle. I've refilled everything, let everything cool down. We are approximately, let's see, we're right there. So we're about 1.25 inches from the top. So let's get this lit, we'll let it bloom up. I've got a new pot of cold, it's not hot or anything. Everything's cooled. Let's get it lit up again. There goes that. Let that come to a bloom and we're gonna see if we can bring this to a boil. Because so far I'm kind of underwhelmed, but we're also not using it the way it was meant to be used in this stove. So let's see. All right, we're at a bloom. We're at 0. Get my thumb over there and go. Okay guys, I think we figured out the problem. So we are at the optimal height for this stove right now. I will show you in a second. Underneath the fire and the bloom is just ripping. It's covering the whole bottom of the pot. We're at 6 minutes right now and we're almost at a boil. There's so much activity in the water going on right now. It's steaming. Little micro bubbles are bubbling up everywhere. Like I feel like we are, you know, 30 seconds away or so from just a rapid boil, which is already halved the first time of the Toaks. This is where the Trangia really shines. This is where it's really coming to light. So I am very impressed so far. I think we just messed up the first time with there's just not enough air gap. So air gap is, I guess, you know, I'm new to alcohol stoves, so apparently air gap is a very important thing. Making sure you have enough of that gap so that that flame can bloom up properly and spread along the bottom of that pot. So we're coming up on 7 minutes and we're almost there. Yeah, there we go. We are at a boil. 7 minutes and 15 seconds it took. And it's just getting more and more rapid. So the Trangia just decimated the Toaks. That was really, really impressive. To be able to get that much, ooh, that's a little warm. To be able to get that much of a boil that fast, we're 5 minutes quicker than the Toaks. That's pretty impressive. And yeah, we're there. We're at a boil. Let's not melt our camera. All right, so to put it out, you just take your simmer cap, cover it up, flames out. All right, guys, so here they are. Trangia, Toaks. They're both burning. They both burn very well. I would say the Trangia definitely has a more intense flame over the Toaks. They both bloom in about the same time. I wasn't gonna time that. So from the time that you light it to the time that they fully start blooming well. I would say they both are about the same amount of time. It's a matter of 5-6 seconds before they fully start going. But you could see like there's a lot more holes, air holes in the Trangia over the Toaks. The Toaks has 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 10 or 11 all the way around it, where I would say the Trangia has close to 30. I haven't counted the holes, but I'm just kind of guessing based off of what I can see of the flame coming out of the tops. This Trangia is just ripping here. You know, the Toaks, it does its thing. It definitely has its place and its purpose, but the Trangia is a much more intense flame. The other cool thing is this simmer ring, right? So you can take the simmer ring and put that on and calm the flame down, right? So I turn the lights off so you guys can see the flame a little bit better here. But you can then take this, you know, these rings here and really calm the heat down and, you know, and be able to kind of control that heat a little bit more. It's going to burn less alcohol that way, and it's going to, if you're looking for like a simmer, if you're frying eggs or something in your pan, you don't want that big, huge, intense heat. You can bring that heat down a little bit and simmer that as well. And then all you need is a glove or a stick or whatever and pull it off, and it comes right back to where it was. Okay, so that's it for today. I know everybody's like, but you didn't move the Toaks down. I'm sure if I moved the Toaks down to 1.25 inches, this thing would perform just as well. So that being said, as far as performance goes, I would say the two are about the same. It depends, right? So we did 3/4 inch. This thing boiled in 12 minutes. We were at 20 minutes and this thing, well over 20 minutes, and this thing just wasn't doing it. So in that aspect, I would say the Toaks edges out front. However, when you put this guy where it's supposed to be, it was amazing. It performed very well. But I don't have any doubts that if you were to move this guy down a little bit too, it would perform just as well. maybe a little bit worse. So, when it comes down to it, the surface space alone between the two is roughly the same. So the burner size is about the same, the Bloom at least, but you're getting more air holes with this. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but I'm gonna give this the edge. So in the competition of how fast it takes to boil, I would say they're pretty much tied with maybe this guy out by a nose. But that's about where the two similarities end. So the Toaks does very well. However, that's all it does. It boils well. It holds a little bit of alcohol, probably enough to cook your coffee. You're probably going to need to refill it if you're cooking breakfast with it as well. You're going to need to refill halfway through and relight. That's its limitations. It does win out in weight. So if you are looking for ultralight, something super small to pack down and just kind of disappear, the Toaks might be an option for you. So this, I'm not counting this stove out. However, the Trangia just has too many benefits to it. Now I got the solder sealed one from Firebox.com. I think from Trangia they just kind of do like a crimping of the material between each other, and that can leak. So Steve offers you to be able to order a solder sealed one where they solder seal it, and that makes it watertight. So you can store alcohol in here if you're on a trip. I wouldn't store it for long periods of time. I did have alcohol in here and was storing it for a few months, and you can see behind me, it did kind of pick up the coppery color of the metal. So I'm sure it still burns just fine, but over time, I'm wondering if that could cause some corrosion in the stove or some type of just where it's not going to function properly. So I would empty it between uses. But if you're planning to go out on a trip, fill it the night before, seal it up. And then, like I said, this thing holds just a ton. It probably holds double what the Toaks holds. As far as capacity of alcohol. So if you did fill this, right, you could cook an entire breakfast probably on just this one container, but then in combination of a small flask with it, now you've got just a ton of alcohol and plenty to be able to cook a couple meals with. So I think it definitely wins on that manner. When it also comes to the size of the flame, or the burner itself, this just has on and off, right? You can control it, probably we learned, with the height or the distance between the pot. So you do have some control there, but it depends on your stove setup, how you have this thing set up, if you can raise or lower it or not. So this does have the simmering where you can kind of control that heat, which is pretty nice. You can dial that heat in pretty well. So again, Trangia kind of comes out on top when it comes to kind of that ability to control the heat. So I would say if we have to pick a winner between the two, the Trangia is the winner. However, I am not discounting the stove. I'm not going to throw it away. I'm not going to not use it. I have used this thing multiple times so far on trips. So far I haven't used this, mainly because I forgot about that I had it. But I've been using this on multiple trips now in the morning, especially to boil my water for coffee is my main use for it. And so far, I'm very impressed with this stove. It does work very well. And the one good thing about alcohol stoves in general is they're quiet. If you wake up in the morning, you're the first one up or something on a camp trip, you don't want to wake people up with, those rocket stoves sound like a jet engine, And Steve does sell that wood burner, gas wood burner. And that is very cool too. I've done a video on that, kind of an unboxing, and kind of showed what it looks like. And I've used that multiple times and it works very well as well. But it is typical kind of rocket stove. It's loud, it has that sound of that gas burning. These are just silent. They smell kind of sweet when alcohol burns. You don't have to worry about sticks or finding sticks in the area and stuff. So that's when I mainly use that. This is if I go to like a campground where a lot of the twigs and sticks and stuff in the area have been used for campfires already. These come in handy. So I'm going to use both of these, you know, but as far as the fight for today goes, Trangia wins. Toaks loses. So anyway, that's it for today. If you like this type of content, subscribe down below. Have you used an alcohol stove? Comment, let me know. What kind of alcohol stoves do you use? Or have you never thought about using one before? Maybe you just use sticks or gas or something. This is a cool little option. It's kind of nice in the morning to just have quiet and listen to your water start to boil and stuff. It's pretty nice, I'll tell you. So anyway, subscribe down below, comment, do all the things, give me a thumbs up. See you on the next one. Fight! I win! I kill you with fire. I fire back.